So the thing, of course, with a percentage is if this was out of 100, the percentage is the mark we'd get, or the amount we'd have. So percent per 100 for every 100. If I get 2 marks out of 50 because I had a dreadful day, that's 4 out of 100, it's 4%. A percentage doesn't just have a percentage, so it's not just 30%, it's a percentage of an amount. Because a percentage is effectively just the same as a fraction out of 100. If I'm talking about a fraction, 1/2, either I mean 1/2 of 1, 0.5, but you'll hear I've got an of, 1/2 of 1. If I have a percentage, 30%, doesn't matter until I say here 30% of what. So any percentage is a fraction out of 100 of a particular amount. Because it's a fraction out of 100, we can always convert between fractions, decimals, and percentages. So if I've got a fraction, 36 out of 90, it's saying, what would this be if this fraction was out of 100? Basically, get it to be a decimal by doing top divided by bottom, which is what a fraction is. And when you've got a decimal, to get that to be a percentage, you just times by 100. So top divided by bottom times 100. Grab your calculator, because we don't need to do this by hand. So 36 divided by 90, that tells me it's 0.4, any time now. But from a decimal to a percentage, times 100 is 40%. We do our working just by saying 36 over 90 times 100% is 40%. So when you get your mark out of 40 for a test, the mark divided by the total times 100% gives you your percentage. So a fraction to a percentage, Indy, that's how we do it. A decimal to a percentage is really easy. A decimal is out of, effectively, it's a fraction over 100. You don't even have to do this. I could write this as 75 over 100 because it's 0.75, meaning it's 75 hundredths, or just multiply by 100 times 100% gives me 75%. If I've got a percentage and I want it to get it to a fraction or a decimal, to a fraction, the percentage means it's this much out of 100. Make it this much out of 100. And then simplify if you can. This is one of the times when it's useful to have your little green calculator, because the little green calculator, if you type in 62 divided by 100, you'll get your decimal. If you push the double arrow key, it'll change that to a simplified fraction for you. So that's always kind of handy. If you don't carry that calculator, of course, when you simplify a fraction, you're looking for the highest common factor between the numerator and the denominator, which is of course 2. Divide by 2 on the top and bottom. If we want to convert a percentage to a decimal, that's the easiest of all. We're dividing by 100%, 0.72. So a decimal converts to a percentage really easily. Fraction, decimal, and percentage all convert between them. So if we wanted to say overall, that would mean that 17% is equal to 17 out of 100, which is equal to 0.17. Fraction or decimal or percentage, all of them do mean the same thing. It's how we convert between them. So as long as we can convert, we have to do the actual useful stuff with percentages. So just moving on from the examples in the textbook. So if you're following along, it's example 17. You've got to be able to find a percentage of an amount. So for example, find 15% of $140. Yep, we're writing. This is one of the situations where proper working really guides you to get the correct answer. You write your question, 15% of 140, and then we're going to reframe that mathematically. I strongly recommend writing your percentage as a fraction out of 100, because I know 15% means 15 out of 100. What does of mean mathematically? Lots of means which sum? Plus, minus, add, divide, whatever, times. Lots of is times. If you see of, we learned this in year 7, it means times. So 15 over 100, lots of 140. The other way of thinking about it is that I'm saying, okay, let's divide 140 by 100 and get 15 pieces of that. But this way, change the percentage to a fraction, the of is a times, and then just grab your calculator. You can do 15 divided by 100 if you want, or you can do that in your head because you know that's 0.15 times 140. And don't forget that I'm finding a percentage of this amount of money. It's going to come out as $21. So appropriate working really guides you to get the correct answer. The next example. Writing this for me, thanks. So this question, there are 18 girls in a class of 25 students. What percentage of the class are girls? Remember, sometimes they'd ask what percentage of the class are boys. They're just trying to trick you out a bit. Please realize that any percentage question is going to have an amount out of 100 of a particular amount. There's got to be a 100 involved in there somewhere. And here, the two numbers they gave me are not 100. I'm going to have to put the 100 in. There are 18 girls in a class of 25 students. So this is expressing a quantity, 18, as a percentage of another quantity. Sure, I've got 18 out of 25, but if it was out of 100 people in the class, how many girls would I have? So I represent the relationship I have as a fraction. I've got 18 out of 25.
There are 18 girls in a class of 25. What percent of the girls?
Yeah?
I don't know, right.
What percentage of the class are female? Are we good? So that fraction of the class, we're okay?
Yep.
That's the fraction of girls we want, or we have. Now you can actually work this out pretty quickly, because if it's out of 25, what would a percentage be out of? 100. How do I get that to be out of 100? Times by 4. So I can make a quick prediction, 18 times 4, I'm going to have 72% of the class are girls. But to do correct working, 18 out of 25 is a fraction. To change a fraction to a percentage, I times by 100%. So 72%. By saying, look, I'm multiplying by 100%, it's reminding me that I need a percent sign there because it was a word question, word answer. We get the word answer from the question. What percentage of the class are girls? 72% of the class are girls. So it's annoying to have to do the word answer, but when it's a word question, you give a word answer. Do try to practice that. Every so often they'd be a little bit tricky and give us different units. Express 76 millimeters as a percentage of 40 centimeters. Sometimes they're going to give you a question like this one. What percentage of the class are girls? That says girls out of the total class. Girls out of the total class. This says 76 millimeters as a percentage of 40. That means 76 out of 40 centimeters. You must be working with the same units. So just very quickly convert. That's going to be 76 out of 40 centimeters is 400 millimeters. You could have converted back the other way. It's up to you. It's better to have whole numbers in a fraction, but I wouldn't mind. And we don't have a 100 in there. I've got two different amounts. Obviously you can see that you could predict this. If this was out of 100, I'd be dividing by 4. But you can always just do top divided by bottom times 100%. And 76 divided by 400 times 100, 19%. Don't forget your percentage. So you've got to be able to convert and use percentages. We're moving into financial maths. Just about everything we do will have a percentage.